Welcome back to part 2 of creating value with presentations. Hope you enjoyed the 2 video links if you've had a chance to look at them. It's about building that awareness, building that persuasive nature of it, making that case. And the first video link, she talks about presenting things that keep your buyer awake at night, the really important things, and it's taken the presentation to the next level. And in the second clip, we see Don really nailing it. He's made an assumption about how they see their business and how he doesn't want them to accept 50% because he wouldn't. He thinks they should be going for the 100%. But it's really, really well put together and well pieced together. So in this session, we're going to build on some of the work, and we're going to see some of the things and some of the tricks that you can do to add this persuasive nature to your presentations and making presentations that add value and make them a little bit more compelling. Through this section on the Blackboard site, there is a link to an animated video about the secrets of the science of persuasion, where they demonstrate 6 scientifically proven methods of persuading people. So that's quite an interesting watch. It's about 11 minutes long, but at the end of the session, and I'll remind you at the end of the session to have a look at it, but I've kept it in here at the notes so it's still following in sequence. Okay, let's move on to just have a brief look at the reminder presentation strategy. May also be known as the reinforcement presentation strategy. So if studies have shown that sales can decline or fall after sales promotions have stopped, a reminder presentation strategy might reinforce the brand's message in the mind of the consumer or the mind of the customer and keep sales higher. It can also be used to maybe with customers have refused to buy off you previously, that you're building market share, but you're going around to people maybe if you have refused to purchase off you the first time round or the second time round, whatever it happens to be, but you're giving it another attempt. So it's sometimes a dimension of service after the sale. It can also be there for reminding people of service guarantees, when products need to be maintained, update, that sort of idea. And finally, it maintains product awareness. Presentation that adds value. Adapt the presentation for the customer's unique needs. We are not robots, we're not presenting to robots, so the idea is that we are adaptable in our approach. Different people will have different requirements. There will be different scenarios in which you will get the opportunity to present, so it needs to be tailored to the customer's unique requirements. Covering one idea at a time, reinforcing the message from earlier that we don't swamp the customer with too much detail, but you use an appropriate amount of detail. So if there's technical data that you need to share that maybe supports, or research that supports what you're saying, you need to use this and support it, but use the appropriate amount. Use proof devices to demonstrate the benefits. This can be quite simply using samples, letting people sample the product, letting them use the product. And finally, balance telling, showing and involvement. So you're getting people involved in the presentation, you're letting them experience whatever it is you happen to be selling, and building from there. Presentation that adds value. Develop creative presentations. Remembering that some customers will be seeing many vendors, they'll be seeing many people do presentations, and you want to present or offer a presentation that stands out from the crowd. Be Don Draper for whatever that period of time is. So you're looking to develop a creative presentation that catches the attention but also gets the message across. If we are using humor, maybe self-effacing, but make it appropriate, and it's not a stand-up comedy routine, so don't overuse it, and don't be offensive, but sometimes you can lighten the mood. Documenting the value proposition and also quantifying the solution that you're offering. So remember, there is some value that they need, that your customer will need. It's the thing that keeps them awake at night. So it's about documenting and quantifying this and reinforcing this message as you present your presentation. Checking your sale tools. Quite simply, does everything work? Sometimes it doesn't. How adaptable can you be? How quickly can you modify? But let's check beforehand to see, does everything work, and is everything in the place where you expect it to be. And finally, summarizing the major points, remembering that our presentation should follow the purpose, process and payoff, methodology, and you really want to emphasize the key points at the end and the payoff, the benefits that the customer will get. The graphic in this slide shows Simon Sinek, and his common message is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So at the end of this presentation, I will have a link there for you on the Blackboard site to his TED Talk. It's a longer talk, but he really gets the message across about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I think that's tremendously powerful. It's about what you believe. Okay, so it's not the what and the how, it's the why. And somewhere in there, if we think about this when we're trying to quantify and document our value proposition, it's what do you believe? And it's well worth watching. To adapt the presentation to the unique needs of the particular customer. It's custom tailoring the presentation. And we're focusing here on needs that have been mutually agreed, mutually identified between the salesperson and the customer. We're really trying to avoid an overly structured presentation, like nearly a robot or a standardized presentation. Customers often would tell you that they can identify when a salesperson's been on a specific training course because they tend to be very structured and very organized and very routine and very regimented. And that's not what customers need, because customers are unique and each has their own set of problems and requirements, and salespeople should look to identify this through effective pre-call preparation. How much information to include? So we're looking really to involve one idea at a time and using the appropriate amount of detail, really re-emphasizing the fact that we don't want to swamp the customer with too much information at the one time. So we're demonstrating one idea or feature at a time, making sure the customer understands at each stage before you move on, pacing it evenly, and including the customer in the process so that they feel that their issues, their concerns have been adequately addressed. And the second element there is making the presentation concise and to the point. The KISS principle, the KISS. Keep it simple and straightforward, and maintaining that through each presentation. In the previous slide, we emphasized the concept of presenting one idea at a time and not overly, we're re-emphasizing not overly swamping the customer with information. And this slide we're really looking at how we do this and how we get the customer to understand or to be involved. So we're looking to balance our telling, showing and involvement. So we get the customer involved, we get them we clearly demonstrate things and we show them how things work, but we let them, so if we're selling something, let's say of a food nature, we let them taste it. If it's clothing, we hand the garment to them and let them see the quality of the fabric, the stitching, the zips, the location of the pockets, how the hood rolls up, if that's the type of product it is. If it's a computer program, we let them sample it, demo it, play with the system, for want of a better expression. And the idea, the more involved they are, the more that they have to remember and about the presentation. And if it's not always possible to get them directly involved this way, and even if it is, we look to leave them with information, whether they're sales brochures, linked to websites, anything that to remind them of the presentation. Remembering that there are some statistics there that say that we remember more what we do as opposed to just what we've heard. So we need to involve them as much as possible. So in our pre-planning stage, our pre-call planning, we might look to compile something like this, a demonstration worksheet. So for example, we'll work through the first one there, and it's the feature to be demonstrated is a special computer circuit board to accelerate drawing graphics on a color monitor screen. Now that in itself might mean something. So what are we have to break it down. So what is it we're looking to prove? So it's basically the monitor and the software. So what can we say? How would we pitch what we're trying to say as salespeople? So the example there is this monitor is large enough to display multiple windows. You can easily compare several graphics. And again, on its own, we know that that can be true, it can be accurate, and if we have a good relationship with them, they'll believe them. They'll believe us. So what will really be the important element of this? And it's getting the customer involved. And how do we do that? We let them use the system. So have the customer bring up several windows using the computer or keyboard, and this will demonstrate to them that it is possible to do what you've said the software can do. And that is the ultimate proof. So developing creative presentations. Here we need to remind ourselves that customers see a lot of salespeople. They listen and they observe a lot of demonstrations. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish ourselves as somebody and an organization who can maybe do things differently, present things in a different way. And really it's about, it does make the features and benefits interesting and appealing, and it does gain attention, increase desire, and add value. And in order to do this, we really need to know our products and everything that the industry is involved in, but also understand a little bit about human behavior and how we can interact with people. And ultimately in this, that when people observe us doing something differently or being creative in our presentations, remembering that we're meant to know what we're doing here, they might also look at us and say, well, look, here's a creative problem solver, and if I have problems going into the future, they will look at these things differently. And that's often the case. It's the way we see the problem is the problem, but they're looking for new and fresh ideas, somebody who can help them develop their business. So to wrap up this particular section, some guidelines, summary guidelines for persuasive presentations. Placing emphasis on the relationship. Remembering that we're looking to demonstrate to the customer that we are trustworthy, we're honest, we have ethics, we're there to help them. It's a mutually beneficial business relationship. Emotional links, we're targeting emotional links. And these are between our messages and the emotions of the prospect. Remember, the things that keep them awake at night. So we're emphasizing, for example, things like quality improvement, increased market share, innovation, customer service, and how we can help them get towards that. We use persuasive vocabulary, words like advantage, benefits, new. And that's the key. Remember that customers buy the benefits. They buy for the benefits, and when we watch Simon Sinek, they buy for what we believe, and that's what we're trying to emphasize. Technical features of products do not sell ultimately. It's the benefits that they get, the value that they get from this particular product. And finally, we're looking to obtain customer reactions, whether that's referrals, repeat business, the willingness to allow us to visit them again and hopefully build on that relationship, that sales relationship. Okay, to finish off this section on building effective presentations, there are two more links on the Blackboard site that I'd like you to have a look at. That's another link to a Terry Shodin link where she talks about building these effective presentations. It's done, you can see it from the website there, it's done like in an interview style where she presents her ideas. And the second link is to Simon Sinek, his TED Talk, How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And although this is tailored towards leadership, I think that's very, very valuable in terms of building a sales message about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it and what you believe and how you can persuade people, because that's what sales is all about. And leadership and sales sometimes is quite similar on what we're trying to do. So have a look at his talk. It is 18 minutes long, and it does go off on a few tangents in that, but really trying to remember the messages, and he uses some very good product examples there about how products could have been explained and how some were explained, and how we can build messages that really resonate with our customers.